start recording soon. So I just wanted to touch base with you all about a couple things. I know Faith had a question for me earlier, so I'll start out by just asking if you all had any specific questions that you wanted to ask me. Everybody good?
Right. Yeah, just in general, right?
Yeah.
I had one, and I was going to talk to the girls about. So currently, I have 5. How do I phase in? Because that's like 2 and 3. I don't think that's a good idea. Like 5 is the lowest you really need in a phasing group. And I was going to look at the rules and see what it said. Like, is the if we skip every other day, which I mean that's only 3 days, but if I had no kid, like. I know the every other day. I know the intention is just to make the group smaller, but I already have a small group at the moment. Do they come every day? Like, is the every other day helping them or helping me split? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in a new pickle. I don't know what to do, and
so
I don't know what to do Facebook with 5.
Yeah. I think. Let me share a couple things, and then that might change the numbers. Hopefully, we're hoping maybe by next week. I don't know. We're crossing our fingers. But my answer to you, probably, Faith, is if I had 5, I think I would have all 5 come every day. Just because I'm like you. I don't think there's a purpose in 3 and 2,
Right.
and at that point, I think with 5, you would just go ahead and have them come every day and, just have them come. But so just to, obviously we've all had some conversations about enrollment and our concerns that we have, because we have several 4-year-olds with IEPs and other 4-year-olds who we can't enroll in the program, and our numbers are not where we'd like for them to be. And we've been advertising. I know Faith said she had a call yesterday with a set of twins, but they were over income. So again, and I'm assuming Dana and Amanda, you all haven't received any calls probably since the last time I talked to you, have you?
There's actually one little girl. Mom either called or came by the elementary school yesterday. I have she's supposed to come by the elementary school today unless we get in touch with her and tell her about Dana's program. I just didn't even think. She has an older daughter in 4th grade. So while I was on the phone with her, I just didn't think about telling her that this might be a better placement. I tried to call her back and she didn't answer. So anyway, I'm still going to move forward with telling her about Dana, even if I'm the one that meets up with her this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do you think she's going to be under income, Amanda?
He is. I went over all that on the phone with her.
Okay. Wonderful. So that'll probably put you either at 13 or Dana at 12, possibly, right? Okay. So, So just to tell you a little bit about where we are with enrollment, Ms. Brown and I have been in lots of conversations this week. I have reached out to Misty Moody and requested a meeting with myself and Ms. Brown to discuss our enrollment here in Jackson County and some of our concerns and how we may move forward. Misty has responded and told us some times that she has available. So I'm in communication with Ms. Brown trying to set up that meeting right now. I'm hoping that meeting will take place today or tomorrow. And when it does, then we should have a better direction of how we're going. I went back and looked at the scope and sequence again. And if you look on the scope and sequences at the beginning, honestly, it does. The part A is the 4-year-olds that are under income. And it has a clause in there that says you have to exhaust all, I forget the word that it uses, but you have to exhaust all attempts before you move on to the others. Now, what they consider exhausting all attempts, I'm not sure. Ms. Brown and I had a discussion about setting a date, whether it's the 20 days or not. Originally, pre-K kind of had a 20-day thing. After 20 days of the start of school, then you could kind of change your direction. So I don't know that it would be 20 days or what they consider exhausting all of your things. But then it goes to actually the 4-year-olds with a IEP needs and special needs. Then it goes to 4-year-olds who are in TEIS. Then it goes to anyone that meets CPAC requirements as a 4-year-old. Then it goes to 3-year-olds with needs. Then it goes to 3-year-olds with TEIS. And then it goes to 3-year-olds with under income. So that is actually how the scope and services, if you go back and read, part 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, and you go all the way through it, that's the hierarchy. So, I mean, with where we are right now, if we determine, okay, at this date, whatever that date may be, we have tried all of our under income 4s that we possibly can. So from this date forward, we're going to progress through our threshold. So that would mean probably our 4-year-olds with IEPs would be accepted next. Then if we can determine, I don't think we have any that go to TEIS. Y'all haven't mentioned that to me. So we would just jump over that category because we don't have anyone that qualifies. The next category would be the CPAC. So my question would be for you all, we had some criteria that we had come up with, but our 4-year-olds that are over income that don't have IEPs, do any of them have other indicators that would make them considered unserved or underserved? That's the terms that are used, unserved or underserved. So if we determine something for a CPAC, we have to have some kind of criteria that say those 4-year-olds are unserved or underserved. So when you look at those 4-year-olds, are they living with any grandparents, even if they're over income? Are they blah, blah, blah? So I would like for you all to kind of think about those kids today and maybe jot some notes down just in case we have to create that criteria that might be helpful with those kids. I mean, I don't know if we can do that or not. Then our next step would be 3-year-olds. Do any of the 3-year-olds have IEPs or special needs?
So
do any 3-year-olds go in TEIS, which nobody's mentioned that, and then all the 3-year-olds that are under income. So that's just the order that I think is coming. But we're going to have a meeting with Misty. We're going to talk to her about our situation and try to make the best decision we can to serve as many kids as we possibly can here in Jackson County, because we don't want to turn any kids away, but we have to follow the rules. So hopefully she can help us kind of mesh the rules and at the same time try to serve all of our kids. That's our hope.
Can we consider unserved as there is no available childcare for these children?
And that is the conversation that Ms. Brown and I had too. That would be part of our messaging with Misty. So I do think that would be something that we could indicate. These 4-year-olds have, there is no child care available. So this child will be unserved if we do not, accept them. So that could be a possibility. I mean, I don't know. But we had some conversations about that. So I just wanted to let you all, all along I've been listening to your concerns, and so has Ms. Brown, and we have been talking, but the requirements are there, and they have been adamant and up to this point, do not take anybody over income, but we're going to have a conversation with Misty to explain our concerns. So I hope by today or tomorrow, we should know some more and maybe which direction that we're going. So Faith, that's why I said, if we get an answer and we know which direction we're going, you might be able to enroll some additional kids, whether that's your 3-year-olds or whether that's your 4-year-old that has an IEP. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what we're doing. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Does anybody have questions about that?
Yeah, I just want to be sure. So the 3-year-old under income, is that the first step after all of our 4-year-old considerations?
by the scope and services, the 3-year-old under income is the last step. Prior to that, you should take any 3-year-olds that have special needs or 3-year-olds that are in TEIS. If we don't have any 3-year-olds in TEIS or have special needs, then I think those 3-year-olds under income would be next, Amanda. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So it kind of goes backwards when it gets to the 3-year-olds. I thought maybe I was misunderstanding that, but okay, I got you.
So 3s
Yeah.
is need first
Yes.
before in. Okay.
Mhm.
Which was definitely not what was proposed to us last year, because when they told us to fill up with 3-year-olds, they didn't say fill up with 3-year-olds with special needs or fill up with 3-year-olds from TEIS. They just said fill up with 3-year-olds.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm just saying. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And we should know more after we have a conversation with Misty. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. All right. So I think I am going to go ahead and try to ask you all a few questions from the interview questions. And I think this might be a good way to do it, because then you all can just bounce off each other. If somebody says something and you want to add on to it or something, so it might make it easier just to have everybody together as we discuss it. So the first question that I have for you all is, what did you learn the first year of your implementation of the foundational skills curriculum? What's something that you learned and you really took away from the first year of implementation? And so, Dana, if you don't care, we'll let you start off. If you want to share what you learned, then Amanda and Faith can just add on their thoughts or tag into what you're saying.
In the first year, I did learn we didn't need to skip the lessons, and also they built on each other. It was really good for my higher end students. They really caught on to it fast. The younger students really struggled with it, so we had to really bring them up to speed. But the higher end students really caught on to it fast. It was really good for them.
Okay. All right. Miss Amanda?
I think those are my exact same thoughts. Yes. Don't skip. Be sure you stay on top of it every day. And I had the same experience. You could look across my group and see the ones who were engaged every day and the ones who still just were not. But I guess, like Miss Dana said, I just try to pull them along every day, hoping that just the exposure at least would help them for next year.
Okay. And so both of you are referring to some of that for the developmentally of the 3-year-olds who struggled a little bit with the foundational skills, right? Just part of it was their developmental.
Yeah. I didn't have 3s, but those were, I guess you could say, my lower, more immature 4s.
Okay. All right. Faith, do you have something you'd like to add to that about what you learned from the implementation?
Very similar. I just put, every day, not skipping, but just how powerful, and this isn't new, but just how powerful hitting something a little bit every day can be. I saw my lower ones, my higher ones engaged quicker. My lower ones after Christmas, though, became into it, because it was the point, like, what do I need to do extra for them? But then they were ready, just a little later, but they were ready. And then I used it a lot of transition. I mean, I definitely had my core carpet or small group times, but then transitions was a good way too. It was a good way to utilize transitions in an educational way.
Okay. All right. So you utilize some of those foundational skills through your transition times. All right. Sounds good. Okay. The next question that I had was, can you just talk a little bit about your literacy block in general, and like the parts of the block that maybe included your big day and your foundational skills? And Faith, if you want to go first, because you already talked a little bit about transitions, and I know that you used maybe a part of your curriculum during that time of your transitions, but you want to talk a little bit about your block?
So my my block would look like I would do a morning meeting that would have parts of Haggerty and one chunk of the foundation. So along with like a quick calendar and helpers, we would do rhyming and we would do woodwork, which was segmenting and blending. And then we led into my big carpet, which would be a lot of my big day. So it would be book focused with an activity and then a relating activity. And then we went into centers. My station was either writing. Well, the writing work would also relate to the book. So they would do that. This is when they're in free play, but they'll come to me at some point. And my work was either foundations related or writing with the book. We would do, writing extension with the book. And then after lunch, we did a little bit, we would do some Haggerty as we transitioned bathrooms to lunch. And then after lunch, we would finish up the foundations. Whatever piece was left, we would do after lunch. And that's how my kind of day looked.
Okay. All right. Miss Dana, you want to talk about how you implemented foundational skills or what your block looked like for you for literacy?
Mine looked different than hers. I did do my rhyme in the morning as I did my morning meeting, but I used 4 small groups and we rotated through those. And we did our big day, our foundational skills, and then they also did a writing piece and then another center that maybe they did activity with, maybe some science or math or something like that. And they would rotate through each of those centers and they looked forward to that. And one center, of course, would be foundational skills. But I had several adults in the room where I had a Tennessee Tech practicum student, or not a practicum student, a student teacher. And that really helped because she was able to do big day or foundational skills or whatever I needed her to do. And my assistant was able to do either the writing or the activity. And then we also used Haggerty for transitions. It was just put throughout my day. And the kids were able to use that. We could even use that as a come together. I would do, I say, you say, or the rhymes and stuff. And the kids would just follow along. And it really worked with our day to just kind of get them back together. And they needed that when I was clapping or something like that they were supposed to respond. Or I would do a rhyming word and they rhyme it back to me. So that's
okay. I had the opportunity to be in your class and watch your Tennessee Tech student deliver the foundational skills. And one thing that I noticed that even when your groups were going through there, that if she finished early, she had a big language book that had pictures, and that she would draw conversations out about those pictures and work on vocabulary with those students, and even use some of the foundational within that too. So I really thought that was powerful how she used that big book to work on vocabulary and also reinforce some foundational skills. So I thought that was really powerful, like when she had like an early finish of that lesson or something. Okay. Amanda, you want to talk a little bit about your literacy block and what it looked like?
Yes. I split my Haggerty and foundational into 3 parts throughout the day. I guess maybe you could kind of say 4, because we did all my kids were responsible for writing a morning message when they first came in. That was like checking attendance. That I think foundational starts us doing something, and I just kind of changed it through the year. So that was the first thing we would do. And then once my drop off was basically wrapping up, we would all come together and I would do a section, always my rhyming, and then usually a little something more from foundational. But I did a little bit of foundational, a little bit of Haggerty first thing in the morning before breakfast. Then when we got ready to do our main block, I had a little bit more foundational, a little bit more Haggerty, and then I would just roll into my big day lesson from there. For center time is where I would do any follow-up kind of stuff that I wanted to do with big day. And then after lunch and before our second center time, I would finish up my Haggerty and my foundational for the day.
Okay. All right. Okay. The last question that I have for you all is, after you have implemented foundational skills curriculum, and I know that you all have mentioned a couple specific ones, that we've used, the Tennessee Foundational, and then also the Haggerty for some of the transitions. How did the outcomes for students compare to the past? What did you notice about your students and how they were able to perform? Or what did you notice that have changed for students this year that maybe you didn't see in years previously? And Amanda, you want to start off this time?
Sure. I did see an improvement in rhyming. There again, I think this group that I had this last year, just some who they just still weren't ready to hear that rhyming, didn't still have it as strongly as the others, but I did see an improvement in rhyming. I also saw a big improvement in hearing beginning sounds. Like on the Upper Cumberland assessment that we do at the end, I did see a big improvement from years past on being able to hear the beginning sounds.
Okay. All right. Dana, how about you?
I would echo exactly what she said about that. The rhyming was just amazing what they could do, and the spelling that they were able to do. We like to yes, we like to write in shaving cream and sand, things like that, and they were able to. I say the sound, and they could write it out. Like we could sound out things like cat, hat, bin, tin, things like that, and they were able to hear that sound and write that out for me. And several students, not just, usually we have 3 or 4, and it was more like 8 or 9 that could do it this year. So that was an improvement. I was unfortunately sad that they did not have the love of books that they usually have. So I did notice that and try to adjust that. I feel like that was more due to COVID and us not having like our cozy centers and our rocking chairs, able to, cuddle up with them and read the good stories as much as usual, and having to read them more from a distance than usual. I feel like that might have been more due to COVID, but I feel like maybe the time will tell with that. But this group didn't have the love of stories like they always have in the past. So I'm hoping that wasn't due to foundational skills. So.
Okay. All right. Faith, what about you?
I mean, just echoing a lot, definitely better at rhyming. And I think that was from foundational skills. My lower students, like I added more nursery rhymes than I ever have in the past, and they were able to connect more. Like most kids can make connections to just basic trade books. But my lower kids, if they weren't connecting to trade books, they at least could make like real life connections and just sequencing and all that towards the nursery rhymes, which I was happy to see that. And then my attentions were better, and I don't know if that was foundations related, but I could gather attention a lot better this year than some years in the past, and it might be all the little learnings we did throughout the day.
Okay. All right. So what I heard overall is that through the implementation of foundational skills at all 3 sites, we saw an increase in the number of students that could rhyme and recognize rhyming words. And I also heard you all say that most students were able to hear the beginning sounds, and we were also seeing some increase in their ability to encode or write those sounds and sound words out. And then Faith, I also heard you make a good connection about the use of nursery rhymes and how that seemed to address some of our struggling students, that they could make some connections with those. So overall, it sounds like you all felt like that the implementation of the foundational skills did show greater student outcomes than previous years. And so I feel like moving forward, as we continue the implementation, we should only see that improve. And we all know, as Dana pointed out, COVID has impacted us, and that definitely could have impacted, like you said, maybe the love of reading, because we've had to, set up our rooms a little different. But hopefully this year, maybe that we can get back to some type of normalcy. But I appreciate y'all's time this morning and answering those questions, because we're very proud of the implementation that you all did this year in foundational skills, and I look forward to seeing you all implementing it next year. I'm going to ask one other question, and this one is just, I know this summer you all attended a training, and at that training, our presenter tried to make a connection to what you're delivering with foundational skills and how that can help you meet the markers of your class observation. So I'm just curious, maybe a takeaway that you had from the training this summer, maybe that's directly correlated to the foundational time, or maybe it's correlated to your center time. Is there anything that jumped out to you just from your training this summer that impacted your thinking for the beginning of this year?
What stood out to me was to really make real world connections from that training is what I remember the most.
Okay. So thinking about how you can do that within foundational skills too, right? With some of those vocabulary words and those opportunities, right? Increasing our real world connections, and that falls under within our class observation where we're trying to do that. Anyone else have something that kind of stood out to them?
I liked her clearer definitions of shared writing and interactive writing and the time windows with that, because I personally was pushing that time window, and this year going into it I want to stay in shared a lot more, because I was going more to interactive writing. Anyway, I think I was pushing my kids when they weren't ready yet, so I'm anxious to have a year with the time windows that Miss Allison gave us.
Okay. All right. So, and I love the shared writing is a great opportunity for them to be able to show what they know, excuse me, with foundational skills, right? With your support, right?
Yeah.
Your support. All right. Amanda, what about you?
I wrote down maybe trying to work back in a little bit of music as an attention getter, like when she was using the rhythm sticks. And I have a curriculum that I bought years ago. I think maybe when I still had threes. Music in Me, I think is what it's called. And I still have all those pieces, and they're right there next to my learning area. So I think I'm going to try to, somehow, some way do a quick bring that back, but put it in like maybe when we're doing the alphabet song or something that is already in place with foundational or Heggerty, but also tie that in.
I love that, Amanda, because I remember her talking about the importance of the rhythm sticks and helping students to understand the rhythm. And that is a key component to them being able to read and hear rhyming and be able to do that. So I do think that's a powerful piece, but I love that all three of you had something different that you brought from the training. The shared writing idea, making the real world connections, the music, all of that impacts, the class observation and how we want the environment to be set up. But also, like you said, the foundational skills will show up as you're doing your shared writing and your modeling. It's going to, by using the rhythm sticks and doing the music, is going to help them with the foundational skills to improve that. And then making real world connections. We're constantly, even in our foundational skills, highlighting those new words and that vocabulary, and we can relate that to their world. So I really appreciate you all sharing that. And I look forward to see that happening in your classrooms. And I really appreciate y'all's time this morning. And thank you for answering our questions and talking about our implementation of foundational skills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.